Welcome back. As always, if you're joining us today for the first time, I'd recommend you go back to review our previous recordings. So we started discussing Chanoich Lenar al Pi Darkoi, how we must nurture our children's nature and not try and change it. Let's go to the next step. Chanoich Lenar al Pi Darkoi. My grandfather, Rebbe Joachim Schlesinger, so sein gesund hat mehr Esrim. He told me on more than one occasion, as far as the chinuch of our children, don't stand in their way. What does it mean, don't stand in their way? Sometimes we find parents will say things like, my parents did this to me, I loved it, that's exactly what I'm going to do to my children. Or unfortunately, sometimes it's the opposite. My parents did this to me, I'm going to do the exact opposite to my children. The truth is, don't stand in their way. Don't put yourself in the way of the chinuch of your children. Your children need the chinuch al pi darkoi. They need the chinuch that you need to nurture their nature in their relationship with yourself and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They don't need to go through whatever you went through. They're not here to make up for what you went through. Chanoich lenar al pi darkoi does not say that we take into consideration what we enjoyed, what we liked, or what we disliked, and we take that and turn that over to our children. The chinuch of our children needs to be based solely on how we cultivate our relationship with them and their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when we show them that we will nurture their nature to create that relationship, that will last with them forever. And that lasting forever means that we will actually have succeeded in creating a relationship between us and our children which will last. However, if we parent our children just because we went through something or we enjoyed something, that has absolutely nothing to do with nurturing their nature. Sometimes parents will say, it's all true, but I want more for my child. I want my child to be the biggest, the most successful. We have to be honest with ourselves. Why are we saying that? Are we saying that because we see the potential in the nature of our child and we're trying to nurture that? We're trying to cultivate their talents that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them in order to create their best relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the people around them? Or are we saying it because we're not happy with what we ourselves turned out to be? We can never allow ourselves to stand in the way of our children. Allow ourselves to say, you know what, I never succeeded in this particular area, but I can push my child to succeed there, and that will somehow make up for it. We can never put ourselves in the way of our children. Rivka Imenu, as we discussed already, was bothered by that fact when there was no clarity as far as where her child is going to go. And that is the number 3 of not standing in the way of our children. We can never allow our doubts, our challenges to create the path for our children. We must always provide clarity for our children, provide consistency for our children. And of course, we discussed consistency from when our child is an infant and so on. But this lasts forever. Don't stand in the way of our children also includes the idea that we cannot allow our personal challenges to now be the challenges of our children. It's so sad that sometimes we see parents that they go through a rough time and they decide that they're going to keep it in when they're at work. They're going to keep it in when they're in shul or when they're out with friends. But somehow they're allowed to bring it all out when they're with their children. Don't stand in the way of your children means when you have your own personal challenges, that is something that you keep with yourself, with your spouse, with your friends, with your Rav. Not with your children. Our children are not here to provide for us. We are here to nurture their nature in order to take them from Rasha to Beinani, from Beinani to Tzaddik, in order to teach them what it means to cultivate a relationship with us, and then eventually with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with his Dabkus Bashem. That's the only reason we have children in this world. And of course, my grandfather once told me, Children, we have to make sure that our children are Benon Shel Kedoshim. And he told me, Benon Shel Kedoshim, it doesn't say grandkids of Kedoshim. It says Benon Shel Kedoshim. We have to make sure that we work on ourselves, we make ourselves Kedoshim. If we want our children to succeed, if we want to nurture them in the correct path, we have to make sure that we behave. But again, not by putting our challenges for them, but by keeping that for ourselves. So again, Chanoich Lenar Al Pi Darkoi, the right chinuch for our children when we nurture their nature has to be only in regard to cultivating their path, to cultivating their relationship, never considering what we went through and therefore we're going to do something because we liked something or disliked something. Never considering we failed in a certain area, so therefore my child must do so. And never saying because I am going through a personal challenge, therefore chas v'shalom our children have to pay for it. But always remembering our focus is Chanoich Lenar Al Pi Darkoi, nurturing their nature, and that means that we will cultivate a relationship that will last forever, as Shlomo HaMelech says, Gam ki yaskin lo yoser mimena. This series is produced by TorahWire.org, sponsored by the DonorsFund.org. For all your charitable giving, open an account today at the DonorsFund.org.